Well, welcome everybody. So my name is Artis Kudu. I'm the founder and CEO here at Element 451. And today we're going to be talking about AI first student success, really about personalization that really powers engagement. And with me joined today is Eric. Eric is the vice president of product here at Element as well. And we're going to go through and give you a picture of what does this mean? Like, what does AI for student success mean? And we're going to show you some of the work that we've been doing at Element 451 to make that a reality in terms of the tools and the functionality and AI that we are delivering to our campuses in order to make that a reality today. And we can give you a peek of like, hey, what's coming up as well. Does it sound okay, Eric?
That sounds like a great plan, Artist. Awesome.
All right,
And if
sounds
it
good.
wasn't then,
So
it is now.
I wanted to start with some stats in here and kind of anchor us all because one of the things that's really important to us is to look at the environment and to think about that student and the student as a consumer, the student as that hero of the story here. However, what we know is that 60% of 60%. So that is only three in five students return to institutions after their first year. They return for their second year. And this is a number for community colleges. Here at Element, we work with a lot of open access institutions like community colleges and even 4 years. That number goes up to four in five students return for second year to their second year for 4 year institutions. So those numbers are a little bit different. But imagine now having to bring new students every single semester. You have to replace those two students plus add additional students, and that student is dropping off. So that's a huge leaky bucket for a lot of us. And we're not doing those students any service, right? Sometimes they're transferring to other schools, sometimes they're not. But the retention has become such a huge part of it. So that's really, really important. But then what ends up happening is that populations that are underrepresented in this case, Hispanic students on those 4 years, that's one in two students returns back. So half of the students that are Hispanic are dropped off, and this data is from the government data, and it's alarming, right? Because now we need to support those students a little bit better, and this is kind of what we think about student success at the end of the day. It's about outcomes and those students sticking around and retention. When you look at what's changed or the expectation of that student in the market generally in higher education right now is that we have these two kind of expectations, right? One of them is obviously students demand clear ROI today. The market has changed, where we are has changed, and they really want transparent pricing. They're looking for tangible career outcomes and a clear value from their education. This probably is nothing new for a lot of you, but it states and kind of I would like to position that this is something that the consumer is demanding right now. And on top of that, support isn't optional anymore. It's a must have for a lot of institutions. So Gen Z expects timely, convenient support. It has to be on demand, it has to be personalized, and it has to be digital first. So when you think about all these different things, how do I convey ROI? How do I become transparent, show clear value? How do I connect outcomes to, what that student is coming in and what we are offering as part of our product? And on the other side, being able to provide timely, on demand, when that student needs it 24/7 and digital first experiences. We're just not set up that way. A lot of campuses are not set up that way. What that leads to is really that student support is at a breaking point right now. And you're seeing that over and over again. The pandemic put a lot of stress on that, but that's continuing even today, where demand is growing, staff can't keep up, and students are really paying the price. It's the student that's paying the price. Here's some stats that I pulled from kind of a whole bunch of reports. They're very similar and they pull up the same things, but these are national averages. And of course, they can be. You're like, well, this is not clear in my institution. My institution does a lot better, and that's fine. And kudos for that. but these are national averages that we pull together and kind of where the problem is. 375 to 1. That's the advisor to student ratio. So there's 375 cases for each coach or advisor to the student, student ratio data. If you think about an appointment for an advisor, to get an appointment with an advisor at peak times, it can take upward to 2 to 4 weeks to set up an appointment or to actually get, in the future to get up that appointment. It can be a little bit lower in non-peak times, but to set up for planning for your next semester and so on and so forth, that's a really long time. Call waiting for financial aid across peak times can reach up to 2.5 hours on call waiting and maybe an hour and a half when non-peak times are an hour. Again, for some of your institutions, you might be saying, this is not me, but there is a lot of breaking points in the system in here that, us nationally as higher ed institutions, like this is kind of where how the consumer is being faced with these challenges. On the other side, mental health services, to get an appointment with them, anywhere between 2 to 6 weeks, depending on where we are. And this is really, really interesting because we don't think about mental health services as something that's really important. But what's happening is since 2013, the folks who qualify to receive mental health services had jumped up by 50%. So it is now over 60% of your student body can qualify for receiving mental health services. And that's up 50% over the last, 12 years or so. And it might be even higher today. This stat is a couple of years older in here, or maybe a year older. So think about it, right? So our customer is demanding more from us and we just can't provide that. And the only way that we see a light at the end of the tunnel and how we can provide the support to these students is by uh, scaling through AI. So student success at scale really requires AI in order to make that possible. And it's really, really important because that's how some of the institutions are seeing a turnaround in that success that they have. This is Dr. Janice Spriggs at Forsyth Tech Community College, and this is a quote that I pulled from one of her presentations where she said every student in her college in 2025 is doing better than they were doing in 2019. That means in terms of the support, in terms of how they're being providing the services and so on and so forth. AI has helped them connect meaningfully while maximizing their limited resources. And that's really important, right? When you think about it, AI for them is handling about 80% of the inbound questions and cases that are coming in. And so again, 4 out of the 5 cases and are being handled through AI. And they have thousands. And again, they have it's handled about 15,000 cases and conversations with students through that. And I don't have that stat pulled up, but and it's saved them an incredible amount of time, around 185,000 kind of human minutes saved in terms of their teams doing the work and getting students answers and providing support to them. So it really works, right? It really works. And when you look at AI in customer support outside of higher education and across multiple industries, these are the 4 things on why AI works for support and kind of providing and it's better and it can do that at scale, right? Number 1, speed matters. So AI delivers instant answers in seconds, not hours. We've seen this. We saw that on demand, they want on demand, really fast answers, and AI can provide that. So they expect that immediate response. AI cuts wait times drastically, 24/7 support, and those answers, they can provide it in moments, not hours. It doesn't matter if they put in RFI form and so on and so forth. They expect that to be immediate, personalized to what they're asking. Accuracy is critical for AI, right? For the students and then the support. So AI solves the issue of efficiently the first time, meaning that you don't have to go in and look for answers and find information and try to provide, it always finds, that right answer. So customers rely on kind of precise, reliable solutions. And effective AI can assist and solve most inquiries very quickly, and it builds trust through every interaction. So this is really, really important, right? Because it's constant and it's immediate. It's not hit or miss. It doesn't matter if you get Johnny, or Mary as part of that phone call, and they might be trained differently. There might be, one might be more senior. AI is going to provide you very consistent, accurate answers and critical answers every single time. So it builds that trust there, and that's why it really, really works in customer support. Personalization builds trust. Of course, we know that. It's like you need like I need to understand, who you are. And the number one thing is we are like our names are usually when somebody tells our names, that's a great um the sound of our names is actually one of the most interesting ways to kind of um uh get familiar and personalize and trust somebody. It's like when you call your name. So AI knows each customer's context and history. It tailors the experiences. It can remember preferences and past interactions, and it creates personalized, relevant support experiences. Now, again, I'm not talking about just higher education right now. I'm talking about the larger support industry, like customer support for every single industry, and now bringing that down to our students, it's the same exact thing, right? The last one is empathy is essential. So modern AI adopts tone and detects emotions. So customers really value the feeling understood. And modern AI really uses sentiment analysis. It's kind of adaptive responses and really balances the efficiency with this human touch. We've gotten to a place now where AI has gotten through this uncanny valley, so to speak, right? It's almost human-like in terms of the interactions. We're seeing it with some of these really advanced AI models that are coming out, and they speak and they talk very similar to a human, and it's almost indistinguishable. And we're getting better over the next 6 months and the next year. The voice AIs and agents are going to be very, very in tune with a human feedback. Now, when we talk about AI, a lot of folks are afraid and saying, well, what happens like that? We always had humans that were the most important part about our interactions with students. And that's still the case here. Humans are not going outside. So humans are at the center, but AI really enhances the productivity, and then lets the human be at the core of it. And the way we think about this is that we're not replacing those humans. Those humans are still there. Your team, your AI team, um, it's going to enhance and not replace. So if you think about it, AI assistants or AI agents would not replace counselors that you have on staff. They're going to empower them. So counselors will manage their own dedicated AI support team. And then what I have here is that kind of a map, so to speak, or an org chart where you have a success coach, and that success coach might be or the success coach is essentially managing their own team, but it's AI personas and AI agents that he's managing or she's managing. And they're doing a lot of work underneath so they can handle all of those 341 cases proactively. And, they can kind of dig through the data and they can support that students and identify who needs more attention and handle this routine outreach and recommend personalized actions, and really, the result is that counselors spend less on routine tasks and more time building those meaningful relationships with students that we see are so important, right? They can spend their time where it's needed best, and it becomes more equitable as part of that. So I wanted to kind of provide you that context because it works. We see it. We've seen it in the larger context of the ecosystem outside of higher education, and at Element, we're actually building AI agents and we're building AI solutions that is exactly solving these problems today. From being able to dig into that data that we have as part of our core platform, which is super important, and integrating and bringing data from different systems like the LMS and the SIS. So we know personalize that student to being able to communicate and interact better with that student via this AI agents, because we have amazing multi-channel communications to providing experiences through our student hub here in Element. So we're very fortunate, and we believe that this integrated approach will help those students provide better success. So let's take a look at it. I think Eric has prepared. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and Eric has prepared a few things that we can go into, and then we're going to take some questions towards the end here as well.
Thanks for kind of teeing that up, artist. I think it's a really good primer to understand how AI assistants and AI agents can really amplify the work that the staff members are doing on our campuses, and that very important work, right? Um, with 347 inbound questions, right? If all of your advisees, or even if half of your advisees had a question, you couldn't possibly answer all of those emails and all of those phone calls. And some relative large percentage of those are going to be routine questions or things that maybe only take 2 or 3 minutes to answer for that student, but they're waiting for you for 5, 10, 15 minutes on hold, or they're waiting a day or two for the email loop to be closed. So this sort of concept of um, this instant AI assistant who can answer a lot of these routine questions and then help further connect and build those relationships is really, really important. So what I've got up on the screen right now, and you're probably thinking this looks awfully narrow, right? Is our student hub, and I've kind of scaled my browser down to more of a mobile experience, because we've built our student hub to be a mobile first platform that houses all of our AI tools within Element 451 that can support students, along with um, connections to other features within Element, like our appointments module and our events module, and other features like My Network. Today, we're going to focus mostly on the AI tools and the AI agents. We might take a side quest or two and look at some other things. But we really want to see how these tools can help support students and amplify the work that you all are doing. So one of the things that is core here let me just refresh here. Okay. One of the things that's really core uh, to the student experience is this idea of our AI assistants, our Bolt AI assistants. And one of the things we've done here is we've actually built these where you at the institution can sort of define your workflow and define your specialists. So just like all of us, when we're working on a campus, I might be a financial aid advisor, or I might be a specialist in academic advising or a career coach, what have you. I've got special knowledge, I've got specialized information, and I've got special context, right? That wraps around the information and the experience that I'm going to give to students. So we provide this platform not to have kind of that old style, on the, I know everything chatbot that ends up losing, right, the nuance and the context of the conversation it's trying to have, and ends up maybe giving wrong information. But really, these specialists that are keyed into a certain specialization or certain role here at Element University. So let's take a look at Finley and how a student who's our financial aid advisor, our AI financial aid advisor, how Finley might be able to answer some questions around the financial aid process for a student. So here I come into the chat, and today we're looking at Student Hub in a web chat, but these assistants can also be configured to answer your emails on an inbound email when that email address is connected to an Element inbox, can communicate over text message. So if a student texts into the office to ask these same questions, the AI assistant can respond to that text message. So while we're focusing very much today on sort of the web and application experience, today, this is very multi-channel, very multimodal. So here I'm going to go ahead and use one of these conversation starters to get things kicked off with Finley. And I'm a student. I need to know when the scholarship deadlines are. So here, Finley has very quickly given me the answer that I'm looking for, and given me information about priority deadlines for spring and fall and so on and so forth. So I can continue to have this conversation and, do I need to file that FAFSA every year to get to get aid? Right? These are questions that I might call the financial aid office if I have a question, or I might spend a lot of time on a website trying to find this information. Now, here Finley has come back with the answer, and not only has she provided the answer that I was looking for, she's also referenced where I can find more information. So at Element, we've actually given folks the option to automatically turn on a lot of information from studentaid.gov and automatically add that to their knowledge base. So all of the assistants have access to it. So this can be a very straightforward question and answer kind of back and forth. And, this conversation as it is right now is very much factual information, discovery information, conversation, right? It's kind of just the facts. But if, as Artis said, the idea of empathy and the idea of the assistant being able to detect what the tone of that conversation is really, really important. So here we've got a situation where now as a student, I'm sort of opening up, right? Where, hey, that first year that I submitted the FAFSA, I had a hard time with it, right? It was hard to do. I'm worried that I'll mess it up this year and not get the aid that I need to come back, right? To be one of those students that come back for my second year. And here you can instantly see that the tone from Finley has sort of changed, a little more compassionate, a little more caring. There it is. There's Patrick's name, who's the student who's logged into StudentHub. So really giving them, trying to reduce that anxiety, giving them resources that can help them further. But what if this goes even one step further, right? Where here the student is sort of saying, well, if I have to try, I don't get my aid and I have to drop out, I'm not sure I can go on. So here you can see that that I actually get this little thing that says, this is the moderation message. And the assistant has actually come back and said, hey, it's important to talk to somebody to support. Please consider reaching out. But what has happened on the back end here is every partial of this conversation, every piece, every back and forth with this, Finley, the AI assistant, is actually being assisted by another AI agent. And that AI agent is a moderation agent. So every conversation that is happening with any of our AI assistants is being scanned as it comes in for things like self-harm, threats of violence, hate speech, other concerns, sexual content, those sorts of things that we may need to alert kind of those core humans in the loop, right? That they need to be part of this conversation now. So as part of our moderation, what has happened in kind of the staff area, the back end of Element, is we've raised a flag to say, hey, Patrick is sort of saying some really concerning things that are self-harm. We run a rule that is now assigned to a particular team, and that team has gotten an alert that there's a concerning conversation that they need to look at. All while Finley has been very compassionate and very empathetic to the student that's happening. This is really, really important, right? Not all of these conversations are kind of in the black box. You can see them all in Element, and we're raising those flags for those students who may need some additional assistance. So it's really important that we're closing the loop there on the human side, all while the AI is doing what it can do to kind of diffuse the situation. And all the responses are totally configurable by the institution and the rules that kind of run in the background there. So a lot of power here. And we've already seen this feature help partners identify students that maybe were on somebody's radar, but also students that were not at all on kind of other support radars at the institution. So that's
Yeah.
one. Yeah, good artist. Yep.
No, I wanted to highlight this because this is really important. And there's a couple of questions. It's like, well, how do students start this type of conversations? Is this only available to them after they meet with their coaches? And the idea here is that these AI agents are available to students 24/7. So they're not after they meet with their coaches, they're available there every single time. They're the first layer. And in some cases, they actually pass on that information to the coaches and they can trigger these conversations in the background. So there's rules and there's setup. So essentially, think about this as you have a faculty or you have somebody interacting with students, and then they raise a flag and say, hey, this student might need an outreach or this student might be at risk for X or Y. And you think about these conversations that are happening at night, that are happening on the weekends, that are happening outside of your purview. You think about that as the first line of defense. If the AI cannot answer those questions, it will raise those flags behind the scenes and it will pass on that conversation, and it can trigger kind of different workflows behind the scenes, which is really, really important here for that kind of AI human collaboration.
Absolutely. And again, here the chat interface is within StudentHub. And of course, just like other web chat platforms, you can also embed this on your own institutional websites if you want to have the chat available and sort of not inside StudentHub. You can have it in both places. So we support embedding our messenger widget into any web property that you have control over. So this is available in a lot of places, not just within StudentHub. So let's back out here, and we'll start another quick conversation with Finley here. And this I want to show how not only can the AI assistants, our Bolt assistants, connect and support human staff members, right, and hand off to a human staff member, but they also understand the context of what they can do and what the other assistants can do. So here, Finley, I've talked about some athletic scholarships, and awesome, we do offer financial scholarships because we're a D2 school here at Element University. And now the student has some questions. Okay, now I want to join the soccer team, right? So what does that look like? So here we've connected from, so Finley says, hey, I don't know anything about soccer tryouts here, right? So I'm going to connect you with our athletics advisor, Coach Carter. And she's done that handoff for us, right? So I've connected you to Coach Carter, the athletics advisor, and good luck, right? So kind of an encouraging word as she hands me off to Coach Carter. Then I don't have to ask Coach Carter the question again. She sort of whispered in her ear what I want to talk about. And immediately I get that immediate response that is his specialty, and I could continue this conversation, right? In this way, the assistants can hand off to each other to provide that support. They could also hand off to staff members or other specialists at the institution as well. So that's just one example. And this is actually, or a couple of examples of how AI assistants can support people in real time. So this could be in the middle of the day because I don't want to wait on the phone. This could be at 3 a.m. and I get all of this information, right? And I don't have to go hunting around a website to find some of this stuff. If some of this stuff is even on your website to find, and not all of this information maybe would be. But these conversations so far have all been very text-based. It's been, student behind a keyboard typing into their assistant. The future is really real-time voice and being able to be very conversational. So artists mentioned that over the course of the next several months, we really see real-time voice and real-time audio being making major improvements kind of globally. And it is a feature that we'll be bringing to Element 451. And right now, we have a couple of partners who are testing a preview beta for us. So let's see that in action. And and I'm also going to demonstrate another thing that makes our assistants unique. So far, all of the conversations have been very much information based, right? I have a question, I get an answer. But the other thing that our assistants can do is actually do work and help students accomplish a goal. So in this case, I'm going to use real time voice and I'm going to book an appointment with my advisor. So I can come down here and I can give a call
Hello.
into
How can I
I was
assist you today?
talking over. Hey, Dean, I just got a notification that I need to schedule an advising appointment. Can you help me with that?
Of course, I'd be happy to help you schedule an advising appointment. Let me just find the available slots for you. I found several advising appointments available. Here are a couple of options. 1. Advising office hours with Eric Range in the advising suite. 2. New student advising with Pepper
No,
Croft.
I like Eric Range. Can I do that one?
Certainly. I'll check Eric Range's available time slots for advising office hours. Great. Eric Range has the following slots available for advising office hours. Friday, March 7th from 9 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. or Saturday, March 8th from 11
Yeah,
a.m.
let's do the one on Friday morning.
Your advising appointment with Eric Range has been scheduled successfully for Friday, March 7th from 9 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. The meeting will take place in the advising suite. You'll receive a confirmation email shortly with all the details. If you need to make any changes, feel free to manage your appointment through the link provided in the email.
Thanks, Dean. I appreciate that. And you know what? I'm standing here with my mom and she doesn't speak English really well. Could you repeat that confirmation in Spanish for me?
Claro,
So
Patrick. Tu cita de
multilingual,
asesoramiento con
multimodal.
Eric Range ha sido programada exitosamente para el viernes 7 de marzo, de 9 a.m. a 9:30 a.m. La reunión se llevará a cabo en la suite de asesoramiento. Recibirás
Thanks so much, Dean. I really appreciate it. And in the background, we've transcribed that whole conversation so the student can come back and revisit it. Staff members in Element can also review the conversation. So you can see the real power here of assistance and being able to get students the information and connecting them to resources, no matter when the student is looking for those resources. Obviously, some resources like appointments are going to be time bound, right? When humans and staff members can actually meet. But the ability to make that appointment at any time, so my future is more certain, is certainly a benefit for students. So that is both AI assistance. And of course, you saw we have all kinds of assistants that could help with career advising and other things as well. Artist, before we move on, is there anything you want to add there?
No, I think this is, what you mentioned, Eric, and there's a couple of questions in here around this idea of being multi-channel. So you mentioned the chat. Yes, they can be on your website, but then, students can communicate with these AI agents via phone, text messaging, WhatsApp, and also over phone as well. And that's the phone calling. So I'm sure you'll go into that and kind of show a couple of those pieces and how that integrates into Element. But that's the idea here, is that the personalization, we know about the student, we have their data underneath, we have prior conversations, and the AI agents are able to personalize that messaging with them. And that's kind of what Eric is showing you here, is that this is very, very different from just some anonymous chat that you're seeing on your website right now.
Absolutely. So you can see, I mean, Patrick's got a lot of advising office hour appointments here, but here's that appointment that we just scheduled with Dean, the AA advisor. So this immediately pops in. Patrick has it right available and can come in and manage those appointments as needed. The other type of AI assistant or AI agent that Element offers within StudentHub is our generative search feature that's called Bolt Discovery. So this is very much focused on information discovery and getting students information that they need in real time. So this really shines with web content and adding web page content to your knowledge base. So you can point your element knowledge base towards your institutional website um, or other web resource and consume that. But Discovery also uses everything that the other assistants use in in the knowledge base. So that can be documents. You can upload your student handbook PDF. You can connect a course catalog, whatever information you want. And as we go through this example, I want you to think about what it would take to have this amount of information that we're going to show over the course of the next like 2 to 3 minutes, what that would take to do on your institutional website today. So think of this as a way to replace your institutional site search, so that Google search or other site search that you have uh, on your institutional webpage, and think about um, how many searches it would take to do what I'm about to show you, and if you would even be able to find this information. So
You're
just kind of
teasing
keep
us,
that,
Eric. Come on.
keep
Just
that in the
get to
back
the
of your
point.
mind.
Uh,
All right.
yeah. SEO has become a big thing for everybody over the last, over the last few years. But as you notice, Google is moving towards a generative search component, and that's kind of the world is moving into that. So that's what Eric is kind of showing in here is that people need answers, and they don't need 100 pages worth of blue links.
Right. Exactly. And if those blue links are actually even what they're looking for, right? So here we've started, and this is a little bit of a program discovery, right? Piece. So I'm a current student. I already have my history major. What is a good minor for me? So Bolt Discovery has gone out. It's looked at the resources of the course catalog and some other things we have in our knowledge base, and it's come back with some of this information. So the other thing that Discovery does, which a traditional site search doesn't do, is it will actually give you some follow-ups, right? It will generate these follow-ups based on the context of the conversation that you're having, based on, here it's only one part, but as the thread gets longer over the course of the whole conversation, and it is actually pulling the information that it needs from as many sources as it needs. So it could be multiple web pages, it could be a web page and a document, all of those things available out of the knowledge base. So I'm not going to use one of the follow-ups. I'm going to go ahead and type my own here. So I'm interested in this peace and conflict studies minor at Element. And you can see, because it's pulled information around a website, it's actually going to source or cite those links to it. In this case, it's only referencing one page, this peace and conflict webpage, and it's actually also citing them inline, right? So the pieces of the answer that it's pulled together, those are getting individual citations too. Now,
It's all
this
about that trust. It's all about that trust, right?
exactly.
This is kind of what we want to do. Is that where is it getting the answers? How can I trust it? It's all constant. It references all your documents. So that's the trust that we build with these advanced AI models now. And yep.
Exactly. And this could be pulling, and if it were pulling from multiple web pages, I would see, multiple areas to cite. So here, one of the pieces is I could say, hey, what kind of career paths can I take up with this minor?
The really interesting thing here is, if you remember, what students want is this notion to ROI and connecting it with outcomes. And that's kind of what we're showing in here, but they don't know like what other follow-up questions. And this is something that a counselor or an advisor would normally do, is they'll drive them towards a path or ask them questions. Would you like to know more about this? Or perhaps you should think about this. And that's really what the AI is doing here, is generating this follow-up questions on demand, on the fly, to drive the student towards something. So this replaces your website FAQ. It replaces a lot of those things, and it makes question and answer, or this Q&A dynamic. It's like a dynamic Q&A on the spot, for every student, personalized.
Yeah. And it's it's really building the ability for the student to find out what they don't know, right? They don't even know maybe what question should be next, right?
Yeah.
But this is really guiding them on this journey where now I'm down, I don't want to say rabbit hole, but right now I'm kind of exploring career paths that are relevant to this major and that, or that minor. And that just started with a simple, hey, as a history major, what minors should I be sort of interested in? I can find salary expectations and all those sorts of things as well as we connect pieces. But I can also come back and say, okay, so what classes are relevant to that job? So I can circle back here. So think about how this journey would have happened on a website if a student would have had to, go over here to maybe a career services website. Maybe you have, the student would have to log in and get access to something like Lightcast or some other tool that has all that career information. And it's very disconnected from course catalog and that sort of thing. So this discovery really brings all of this together. And discovery is available just like our other assistants. Yes, embedded here in StudentHub, but it is available as a component on the Element 451 landing page builder. So you have a really nice way of inserting it into Element landing pages, but it can also be embedded in your institutional website as well, either right alongside your site search or replacing your site search as kind of the next generation piece.
I was going to say replace, please replace it.
Yes, please replace.
We're moving towards that, and your students deserve to have these generative searches on your website.
So the other thing that these sorts of that discovery opens up is the ability to share the information once you've have it, right? So I can come in here, maybe this is of interest to my parents or my spouse as I'm making decisions, right? So I can very quickly share this, copy the link, send this over to them in a text message or on WhatsApp, or copy the link and send it to them in an email, and they can see this whole conversation that I've had. But there's other ways that staff members and like as an advisor that I could leverage this sort of information discovery piece as I'm trying to help all of my advisees very quickly. So another way that we can do this is sort of flipping the script and in Element building a messaging campaign that actually links a student right into discovery to start a conversation. So this one is more of a admissions use case than directly advising your student success. But this is an email campaign that was coincidentally built by another one of our AI assistants, our campaign assistant that can build campaigns and emails for our partners very, very quickly. But down here, we actually have, and I inserted these extra calls to action. So before you think our campaign wizard, our campaign assistant would improperly put 3 calls to action right next to each other, it would not. I can come in here and I can click on this to show me the possibilities, right? And what has happened inside that link is that link has been customized with my major. So there's a token in there that says Patrick is a arts and imaging technology program major, and that link automatically pops up discovery and starts a thread with them. So this idea of the student doesn't know the conversation to have, we're kickstarting that conversation with them. So this could be about how to start advising or how to prepare for advising, and then continue that conversation right straight through. So a lot of great ways to kind of lead students to the assistants and to bolt discovery and make sure things are kicking off as well. All right.
Yeah, that's really cool. As Eric gets set up with that, I find that to be probably as someone who's built websites for the last 25 years now, it's something that is revolutionary in terms of driving people to generating content that's personalized on demand just for them, right? that is incredible that we're able to do that right now.
Absolutely. So, and just before we jump to the next thing, here is this is a page that was built in the Element 451 pages feature, but I wanted to showcase really quickly. Um, this is that block I was talking about that you can insert for discovery. So similar interface to what you saw in Student Hub, and of course here is what the chat would look like embedded into a web page as well. So again, this is one of our landing pages, but you could insert both of these in the same way on your own institutional pages, and you have total control. Put it on some pages, all pages, and you can actually have different teams of assistants depending on the context. So if you want an admissions team working on your /admissions pages, and an advising team working on your /advising or /academics pages, you can certainly do that. So that is discovery in a nutshell. And I think the last thing I want to show is a little bit of some more stuff that we're working on in bringing to Element in the future around this idea of voice assistants. And I'll let artists talk a little bit about proactive assistance as well. So here in our conversations module, I can come in, and one of the things you can do within Element is make outbound phone calls. Now, this is a one-on-one conversation that I'm sort of giving the instructions to my AI assistant to do. But this is kind of setting us up to do this at scale, right? So think about this in that way. So as I configure the phone call here, I can say, hey, I want an AI assistant to do this. I want Dean to be the voice assistant that goes out and makes this phone call. And then I can tell Dean what's the goal that it wants to accomplish, right? So, hey, call the student because they've ignored all the text messages and push notifications and other things we've done for setting up their advising appointment. So call that student, set up the advising appointment, and see if they have any questions about the priority registration process, right? I could put all of that in here and call that number and make that phone call and do that right within Element 451. So this is setting us up to do as another feature to add to our proactive assistance. And I think, artists, you want to talk a little bit about what's coming there and how we're thinking about that next generation and the next evolution of what's coming.
Yeah. So what Eric was showing you is the ability for the agents to go out now proactively to the students and communicate with those students. And we're just showing you like how a human can actually click the buttons, but this is actually can get automated behind the scenes as well as part of our kind of smart engine that is looking at those students and kind of proactively triggering an agent to say, hey, go ahead and call that student. And here is the goal. I need to, just like you automate campaigns, for example, and you set up all your workflows, now somebody on, like an AI agent can do that in the background at the student level, and he can do it at the right time, and he can have the right messaging because we have all that infrastructure in there already to communicate one-on-one. We're setting that, that follow up. So I wanted to, and Eric, I think we're kind of at the end here. I don't know if there's any more questions, but this is super important for everybody to understand because as we as we start thinking about kind of this future of AI student success, it's really AI powered, but it's people focused, meaning that it will allow us to provide and spend more time equitably with our students. And it's all about the student and how they can get that support from their institutions. And at the end of the day, if you think about it, investing in AI is really investing of every student's success because we just cannot scale through a human first approach. Every student demands and really needs your support and needs to be heard. They needs they need to have that. And this is something that we truly believe here at Element. So thank you for kind of jumping in onto this presentation, and we have a very specific point of view, and we're open for questions if there is any questions in there. We try to answer a lot of those questions throughout the conversation as well. So, one of the questions: what are the biggest challenges the institutions face when you're starting to implement some of this AI support solutions? That's a really good question. If you're thinking about what are some of the things that you are trying to bring AI in, is all about trust. How do you trust it? How do you change processes? How do you think about this as a addition to your team and not necessarily replacement? We see that fear come up a little bit more. So that's something. And then also trusting it, that the technology actually works a lot better than people think it works, right? The advancements have gone so fast that, like what Eric was showing in that voice, we have even better voices than that right now in there. We just didn't swap it out. So this another question: can AI proactively support at-risk students before they disengage or drop out? That's a really, yeah, that's exactly what we're trying to do in here, right? So we have all that data, and we're feeding data from the LMS, and our Canvas integration is live right now. So real time data, enrollments, courses. We're feeding that Canvas, and then we're working on Brightspace and Blackboard, kind of over the next couple of months to get those things incorporated in here. So data comes in, and the AI is actually looking at that in real time in order to provide those engagements in there. This idea of equity comes up quite a bit, fairness and equity. And I have a lot of thoughts around that in terms of equity and fairness. The way that someone explained it was by having people or having counselors and coaches spend more time with the students that need it most, they're able to think about the institution delivering being more equitable. So when you're spreading thin and you only have 5 minutes and you have 300 cases that you have to deal with, now you have 300 appointments, your time is taken. So some student that needs 2 hours, they're not going to be able to get that. So this now gives that ability to provide more kind of personalized human support to those who need it most. How does AI handle sensitive FERPA information? Well, this is a good one. I wrote an article about this one. So it's on our website. And we actually dropping a podcast on Generation AI on on Tuesday, that we talk about FERPA and how Element handles FERPA and how to think about AI systems when they're handling FERPA information. So if you go to the Element website, you can look at the article or wait till Tuesday to kind of get that one as well. The last one, and then we're done. What is the perspectives on interacting between AI and human staff members? So this is a really good question, and one of the uh, one of the things that we're moving and we're talking about this year, as we relates to AI, it's about this AI agents, right? And think about this AI agents as, again, teammates that are there to help and to alleviate some of the mundane tasks. They're not there to necessarily replace. They're not good enough to do that, the replacement part, but they're there to do a lot of that work, that proactive work, so you can focus on the things that matter most. And essentially, I today, as a CEO of Element, I could not see myself being and doing the work and the output and the things that I do today without AI. I have many workflows that I use AI for, from doing research to content to outreach to automation to transcription. So all of those things, even going through my email and looking and categorizing things, I use AI for a lot of different things. I would not be able to do what I do without AI. Does it mean that, you know, my job is getting replaced or any of that? No, the answer is no. But it's really, really important to understand that, as you start using more and more of these agentic AI systems that are embedded in your day-to-day work, you're going to find it invaluable, and you're going to find it that you're going to be able to do a lot more and a lot faster and get the stuff that you enjoy done more than the ones like the grunt work, right? So all right, everybody. I think we're done. Eric, thanks for the demos. I think the voice demos are really very impressive, and going back and forth, the multilinguality there is super interesting, and kind of the proactive way of reaching out to students, and the students having that access in the student portal 24/7 is super important here as well. So we're going to be providing a lot more of these updates as we move forward. If you're a current Element a partner, reach out to us if you have any questions. And then if you're a prospect or somebody who would like to learn a little bit more about this, just let us know, and we'll be able to connect with you and show you a little bit more.
Yeah. Thanks so much, artists. Thanks everybody for coming. Have a great Thursday.
Bye, everybody.